Hi, my name's Michael and welcome back to Amarok Weekenderlander. In this episode I'm going to tell you all about this iKamper Skycamp Mini 3.0. I've had this tent for 12 months now. Do I still love it as much as the day that I bought it, now that I've spent nearly a month sleeping in it? I will tell you all about it on this week's episode, so stay tuned and find out what I really think about my iKamper Skycamp Mini 3.0 12 months later. Before we dive into this review talking about my iKamper 12 months after I bought it, I think it's probably important to talk about why I got an iKamper in the first place. iKamper first came to my radar from watching various off-roading and overlanding videos from those out in America, such as like Talon Sai and Mike of Last Line in Defence. And at first it was the trucks that drove me in, the Tacomas and the Tundras and things like that. And then I noticed that they've got tents on the back of their trucks and I was like, oh, I quite like the look of a rooftop tent. But the soft shell idea put me off a bit in the thoughts of it looked like they would take a while to open and close. I did like the idea of a wedge tent, but then that got away from the purpose of keeping the tent lower than the height of the cab on the truck. I didn't want a full height roof rack, and that's when iKamper came along. So when I first came to know of iKamper, they were on the 2.0 variant. I was very keen on getting that, you know, thinking when I've got the truck I'll get one of them. And then the 3.0 came out and it was, I just got to have one. And it wasn't long after a trip to the Nürburgring in Germany that I thought, right, I've done everything I wanted to do with my Fiesta ST that I had. I'd had it for 5 years. It'd been to the ring 4 times. It was going to be due some bills, I think. So I was like, right, now's the time, get the truck, get the tent. And that was it. So that was June last year, so June 2022. And when I went to order the tent, out of stock. I was gutted. I was hoping to spend an entire summer using the tent and having some great experiences and making some great memories. Out of stock until September. I'm a teacher in the UK. Our academic year runs from September onwards, so I could potentially have a tent and then have very little time to use it because of work and then because of the weather. So I was like, right, fine, I'll wait until it comes back in stock. And then all of a sudden on Facebook I get a message from a guy called Andy. Andy is kind of the hero of this story. Andy is the distributor for iKamper in the UK, and he says, I've had an order cancelled for what you want, an iKamper 3.0 Mini in Rocky Black. Tell me when you're at a computer, I will release it so that you can order it there and then so that nobody else does. There's not many other companies that I know that would treat a customer that well, given that they hadn't even purchased the tent in the first place. So there I was, sat at my PC, messaged Andy back on Facebook saying, I'm ready, release it. I got the message saying, refresh the page, there it was, 1 in stock, ordered, done. And that was it. That was the start of my iKamper journey. I had my own, it was on its way. I chose to go and pick it up because it wasn't that far up the road from me. It was only about an hour and a half drive. It was actually cheaper, even with the price of diesel, for me to drive to Edinburgh and back and get it fitted than it was to get it shipped. If you watch my video about how I've mounted this to the tent, you will realise there was some issue with brackets and things. Nobody's fault, it's just a compatibility thing with my setup, but that was fixed thanks to Andy in iKamper. I didn't video any of it. I kind of wish I did, knowing sort of where this channel's gone now, but this channel wasn't really an idea at the time. I got a few photos, so I'll sort of dot them around. My iKamper was ordered, it was fitted, and we were ready to go off out on adventures and sort of learn how it's done. Yeah, that's kind of how I got my iKamper and why I chose iKamper. The speed of setting up a hard shell roof tent is what really drew me to iKamper. Their design, I really just like the graphic design of their brand, how their products look. Yes, they are expensive, but I think with camping you get what you pay for. So I was lucky that I could afford to do that. So that's why I bought an iKamper. So I have filmed this a little bit out of sequence, hence why the tent's up and you haven't seen that bit yet. But I did just want to talk about sort of my first impressions of the tent. Kind of blew me away seeing how quickly it went up the first time. I would highly recommend going to a distributor in your area to see that tent be demonstrated to you when you first pick it up. It just makes it so much easier, particularly for packing it down. I've got the sort of the setup to a point where I'm really happy with how quickly I can take it up and take it down, but that's because I've spent the best part of 30 nights in this in the last sort of year. If you're in the UK, go and see Andy at iKamper UK. He is brilliant. It is worth pointing out, I should have said this long ago, this video is not sponsored. iKamper have no say on this video whatsoever. This is purely my opinion. I bought this tent with my own money. I have no working relationship with iKamper yet. Hopefully, fingers crossed, iKamper get in touch. And it is just something though, like I say, if you go and see those iKamper specialists who are your local distributors, it is well worth going to see them. The wealth of knowledge that they have will just get you off the ground running with your tent straight away. Andy talked me through my tent, what I should do. You know, the first thing that he sort of advised was you can wet them down to help the seams seal in the rain. That's quite common practice for any kind of tent, not just iKampers. Explained what to do in terms of how to pack it, different things in terms of speed, about always putting the foot protection on the bottom of the ladder so that it doesn't stain the top window on the fly sheet, and just a few other tips and tricks. It was just a really nice experience from, you know, from that original purchase to original pickup, and it has enabled me and my partner to get out way more than we ever would have in a ground tent. You know, we can go out for a night and that's it, it's done. It dries really quickly, it's so warm, particularly good for the UK climate. It's dry, we've never had any problem with leaks, and it really is a premium experience from a premium product. Is it perfect? No, but are the things that I'm not 100% like, yes, amazing, are they game changers or experience ruiners? No, they are not at all. This is just me being a bit picky. We'll get onto them in a bit. But first experience and sort of first impressions, it is exactly what I hoped it would be. The quality of the materials is exceptional, and I would say it, the sort of the most glowing endorsement I can give is, knowing what I know now, and I had to purchase the tent again with the same amount of money, would I buy it again? And the answer is an unresounding yes. It is a lot of money, but it's the experience, the engineering, the quality that you pay for. Those memories that it's generated are priceless. Some of the places that I've been that we would never have otherwise gone are because of this tent and the easiness that it provides. So to me, that price is worth it, and I would pay it 1,000,000 times over. Is it a bit of a hard sell to somebody who's looking at their first rooftop tent? Yes. This is my first roof tent. I've got nothing else to compare it to, but I would 100% go for it every time. So one of the big reasons why I went for an iKamper in the first place was how quick it was to set up and take down. I used to ground tent before, like a lot of people did, and you know, I don't mind it, but particularly breaking down a tent was one of the worst jobs that it always came to going camping. The weather wasn't great, it was time spent out in the wind and the rain that I just didn't enjoy. So striking down a tent was kind of my least favourite part. And a roof tent goes a long way to getting away from that, and an iKamper is sort of an even better subset of roof tenting, where it's just so much easier to put away than those soft shell roof tents. For me, that sort of design and quality of materials on top of the speed of putting it away is worth it all day long, every day, and I use this far more because it's easier to set up. So let's do it real time, let's get it open and see what it's like. So I will show you just how quickly it is to set up. I'm not going to set up the bedding. I've made that a bit worse in terms of setup time because of the inflatable mattress that I've got. But let's go in real time, open up the tent to the point where you can sleep in it pretty much straight away. I will probably fumble something because I'm doing it on camera, but even with those, you will see just how quick it is to open. I'm not going to try and open this any quicker than I normally would. I'm just going to do what I would normally do to the point where we could start putting the mattress up and getting the bedding ready. So here goes. Just before we get started, it is worth pointing out that I do actually have a lot of bedding already in here. So if you haven't seen that video already, go and watch that, and you'll realise why the tent is trying to open itself up. But in a nutshell, there is a deflated iKamper RTT comfort mattress in here, 4 normal bedding pillows, and 2 3-season sleeping bags. So there's a lot of bedding in here, hence why it's trying to push itself open. So yeah, so we'll kind of start the timer again from here, but this is now the setup, and I just wanted to explain why it's pushing itself up a little bit. realistically folks, that's it. It's done and ready. There are a few little things that I've done to make it quicker, such as putting tape on these tension poles so I know which poles fit this area. There's a few other little bits and pieces I would need to do to make it sort of camp ready, you know, cinch these bits down so that they don't flap around, but that's it. Show me a ground tent of this size that goes up that quickly. So like I say, I have done a few things that make it a bit quicker to go up, and those are in my top 10 and another 5 mods, hacks and tips videos, so please make sure you go and watch them as well. But yeah, this is it. That's it, done and ready, and that's a huge reason as to why I bought an iKamper, is that speed of setup. I could be in there asleep now if I needed to be. So if we're going to talk about iKampers as a year-round sort of tool that you can use, I thought it only prudent that I start coming inside the tent to do so. But in terms of weather seals, this has been in some horrendous rain. Also, we've been over at the Lake District and around sort of Wales and Snowdonia, all places that are quite well known for their rain, and we have been nothing but bone dry inside this tent. There is a lovely sound of rain on top of a tent, and I think it's one of those things that people who camp will always sort of love, that sound when you're warm and dry inside a tent and that rain drumming down on top of you. I think I've even got a clip of it from a previous camp, so and there's just no better sound than that when you're warm and dry inside a tent. The material that this iKamper is made of is so incredibly durable. We've been in some quite strong wind. If you're sensible, what you do is you park the hard shell into the prevailing wind, so that takes the brunt of it and sort of deflects it over the top of the tent. Obviously wind direction changes, and when it does, the tent is still very robust. These flaps make a very good wind cover and a rain cover to keep these windows dry. So when you've got the mosquito nets up and the bug nets up, you can still get some airflow in and out the tent. I've never had any issues with this tent in the weather, and like I say, we've put it through some quite strong weather at the minute. I've got a few sort of hacks and tips about what we do in terms of the rain and particularly the wind. The wind one is about sort of securing the front flap down, because that does lift, but that's just what happens with any rooftop tent. So that's in the 5 more mods, hacks and tips video, which I will link somewhere. So go and have a look at that, and just a way to make sure that that's sort of down and prevented. We've also been in some quite cold weather. When we did our Lake District trip in sort of April 2023, one of the sites we stayed on got down to -1 degree Celsius overnight, and obviously it was cold. We had three season sleeping bags, which probably could have done with being a little bit more, but you sleep in sort of joggers and a t-shirt like you would in any other tent. It warms up very quickly in here, and then you're sort of done and ready, and you know, we were fine overnight. My partner was a lot warmer than I am. She's a very warm person, but you know, we've never been to the point of uncomfortably cold in this tent. And yes, some of that's the gear, but a lot of it is down to the tent. This grey canvas material is so nice and thick, and we'll talk more about that later. But the features of this tent in terms of its weatherproofing and using it all around in this country, I am very happy with. This lives on my car permanently, and has done for the last year with no issue whatsoever. So very happy with the iKamper from that point of view. I think this is one of the biggest features that I love most about the iKamper, and that's being inside of it, which is good given that it's a tent. The first thing that stands out to me most about being in the iKamper is when you're asleep, of just how dark it is in here. This canvas lets barely any light through. It is so like thick that it is brilliant in terms of getting a good night's sleep. Both myself and my partner say that we have a better night's sleep in the iKamper than we do on our bed at home, and I think that's a lot of, yes, it's being outdoors, but it's just the general comfort and feeling of being sort of cocooned in a safe environment inside this tent. It's nice and dark, it's warm, it's cozy, but it's also quite roomy. This is, I believe, just bigger than a queen size mattress, and it certainly is longer than that, and we'll talk about more about that in a second. But in terms of comfort, I do keep my bedding in here. This is the RTT Comfort Mattress, which I talk about a lot in a video called All You Need to Know About the RTT Comfort Mattress. It's 20 minutes talking about a mattress, but if you're thinking about buying one, go and see that. But long story short, yes, buy one. Again, they're expensive, but worth it. Kind of the iKamper sub-motto, I think. I also then have 2 3-season sleeping bags in here and 4 proper bedroom pillows that live in here all the time. But in terms of interior space, I'm about 5'8". You know, I can lie down fully. I've still got a bit of headroom here, and there's room at my feet, and it's just really comfortable. I love this design on the back of the clamshell panel with the world map on. It feels very sort of explorer-ish, and then that view outwards, sort of wherever you're parked, you get really good vision either through that main door, through the side windows, or the roof panel. We love sort of stargazing through that roof panel. You can just unzip it, and then there's the fly mesh and then the clear bit on your rain fly. If you really want to, you can peel the rain fly back, and that might help with a bit of breathability. But in terms of comfort and interior space, yes, I've carpeted it, because otherwise it's just that normal brushed aluminium finish. The carpet just adds that little bit of a premium feel. It helps with a little bit of condensation, although we don't really have a massive issue with condensation in here. Only ever really gathers along this metal strip and along the exposed metal part of the hoop. It would probably be a lot easier if we could open that window like we can open that one, but because of the pickup truck we can't use the tension poles. But we have come up with a solution of using some suction cup anchors. Again, you can see that in my top 10 hacks, mods and tips video. But in terms of comfort and sort of livability, it is so cozy in here. I think we sleep better in here than we do at home. In fact, we definitely sleep better. And it's just really comfy. You know, like I say, we use these sleeping bags, not as bags, but as quilts, unzip them and then have two doubles essentially. And that and the insulated mattress is enough to keep us warm in whatever weather. So in terms of comfort, yes, still love it 12 months later. I don't have any other rooftop tents to compare this to, so this might come across as a biased review. It's my only opinion of it. But in terms of comfort experience, it's way more comfortable than a ground tent. It's a lot more sort of luxurious than a ground tent, and obviously that speed of put away is just so much better. Another thing that's really worth mentioning about the iKamper is you cannot go anywhere, pitch this, and not expect people to ask questions. Rooftop tents are still relatively new in the UK. They are relatively few and far between. They are becoming more common, but you do not see a lot of iKampers. There's a couple live around my area that sort of I see semi-regularly, but I never ever see them out on the site. I've not seen another one out on a site or sort of out in the wild pitched anywhere. They are out there, but just in terms of the UK, they're not as popular as some other brands who maybe market a bit more sort of aggressively, shall we say. But yeah, you just got to be prepared to have the social aspect of an iKamper. People will ask questions, they want to know what it's about. So if that's not you, don't stay on sites with an iKamper. But it's really not a problem. People are just curious, and I have no problem kind of showing off an iKamper. I love it that much. I'm happy to talk about it. Right, pros and cons. Pros: super quick setup time, extremely high quality materials, great customer service and support, and I just love what the brand stands for in terms of its aesthetics. But then it's like its community feel and sort of its feel good and adventure feel as well. I think that has a lot going for iKamper. It feels a lot more like you are a valued member of a family rather than just a customer that you seem to see with other rooftop tents. A lot of that will come down to a good social media team, but it does make you feel valued as a customer, particularly given how much you've spent. And in terms of cons, everything has pros and cons, but I feel like these are a bit harsh saying they're a con or a negative, but they are certainly points to consider. Number one is undoubtedly the cost. You can't talk about iKamper without sort of a few people going, how much? But you get what you pay for. I don't have anything else to compare this to other than a ground tent, which was quite a cheap ground tent. So I am probably maybe a little bit blown away by this in terms of its quality, because I've gone from one end of the spectrum to the other. And you get a lot of people who go, but you can get so much better for so much less. And maybe you can, but that hard shell design and the speed of setup and takedown is what I'm paying for and what I was very happy to pay for. Whilst I'm kind of listing it as a con, it's not really a con in terms of it would stop me buying it, but it is prohibitive for some because, you know, they are expensive. The other sort of con is a bit more of a gripe than anything. It's the standard mattress. I'm a side and front sleeper and it's fine, but given how much you pay for this tent, I do feel like the standard mattress is the biggest room for improvement. I was lucky that this RTT Comfort 5082 came up second hand, so I got it cheap. I was going to buy it full price and I would still be happy with it full price, but when you've spent as much as you've spent on the tent, to then have to spend an extra couple of £100 to get a mattress that's better than fine, I think's a little bit bad, if I'm totally honest. So I do think that standard mattress has a large room for improvement. I believe the iKamper 3 mattress is better than the iKamper 2 mattress, but I've not tried anything else to compare. but there's just a lot of things about it that I really didn't like. I didn't like the split design. It was quite noisy, it was quite thin, but then getting that RTT comfort mattress has completely changed everything. Could it be possible that that gets bundled in the future? But then I know that's going to have cost implications, so that is something just obviously to bear in mind. But I do think the standard mattress still needs work. And the other big one that I think is the underutilized clamshell. I'm not going to steal all my ideas, because I have got a bit of an idea brewing for a video of what would I like to see in the iKamper 4.0. But the other big one that I think is mentioned in is storage. There is a lot of canvas space in the tent that is not utilised for extra storage, and the biggest one for me is the inside of the clamshell. I don't know if there's any sort of patents or copyright on it, but so that might be the reason why it can't happen. But I think Alucab get the inside of their clamshells and wedges 100% right. They've got pockets on the inside of that clamshell, so where that world map is on the iKamper, but I do think they don't utilise the underside of that clamshell as well as it could be. I know the clamshell's not weight bearing in terms of saving sort of weight, but this is only small pockets for things like phones and chargers and battery packs and maybe some socks and some hats and gloves and whatever, small items. So they could live on that back clamshell. You could still have that world map design, but just build in some pockets to it, and it would just help get things out the way and sort of store them a little bit easier. If you've got a t-shirt you want to chuck up behind you when you go to sleep, or some socks, rather than having to shove them down the side of the mattress. I don't really like those side pockets very much, particularly with the RTT comfort mattress, because it's a bit thicker. They kind of lose a bit of space. I do feel like there is something else that they could do in terms of that storage, but really, if those are my only gripes, then I think iKamper are doing really, really well. The 3.0 has addressed a lot of the things in the 2.0 that people weren't happy about, so I have no doubt when iKamper come out with a 4.0 that again is going to be an evolution on this model and will sort of make a big difference. People, you know, regularly do feedback to iKamper and they take that on board. It's something they're very, very good with. They're not a particularly old company. They started on Kickstarter or the other one, Indiegogo, whatever it is, not that long ago with the iKamper 1.0, and there are people out there who still use that iKamper 1.0, so that shows the quality. But just with future iterations of the tent and the new products they're bringing out, it's really, really quite exciting. So let's see where that goes. Right, now what next? We've lived with this for 12 months. We loved it for 12 months. We're going to continue loving it long after that as well. We do have a few plans about things that we want. We're debating either to get the rain zip-in cover for the stairs or the big awning. I think it's going to be the big iKamper awning. I do have a bit of a DIY solution for now. Again, in that top, it's in the 5 more iKamper mods tips video, not the 10 version. I'll link it now. And that does for now. I think we will get the big awning eventually. We would love the annex room. It just doesn't work very well with it being mounted on the back of a pickup tub. It's not high enough off the ground. Other than that, our plans is just to keep using it a lot. We've hit just shy of 30 days sort of sleeping in this year in 2023. We want to beat that next year, and I have a good feeling that we will, because for 3 weeks of the summer next year our plan is to drive around Europe camping all the way, and that's something that this iKamper is going to let us do. We're basically going to get the ferry from England to Europe, and then spend a week driving to Switzerland, a week around Switzerland, and a week coming home, which we're both really, really excited for, and this tent is going to enable us to do that, as we are going to be hopping around a lot of sites. That's it for my 12-month review of the iKamper. Hopefully you found it useful, and if not, at least a little bit entertaining. So in a nutshell, some closing remarks. I love my iKamper, I really am. Probably a little bit biased and a little bit of a fanboy towards the brand, so will probably defend it more than, I don't know, maybe I should or what, but that's the level of confidence the brand has inspired in me and a customer, and it is something that I would happily recommend to somebody else. I appreciate there are some cost concerns with iKamper, but with all things that are good quality, you have got to sort of pay that price for them. Look at it as an investment rather than a cost. This iKamper has let us go places and do more than we ever would have without it. I just don't think we'd be as keen and committed into a ground tent as we are with a rooftop tent. And the iKamper, particularly its quick setup time, is what enables that. I think I touched on it perfectly before when I said, knowing what I know now, 12 months ago, would I do it again? And the answer is an unresounding yes. I would happily, if somebody had that money again, going, would you buy the iKamper or would you buy something cheaper and sort of pocket the change? I'd go iKamper every time. It's just worth it. So please make sure that you do. Do all your research and buy what's right for you. I'm not going to tell you you must buy an iKamper, but I will tell you won't be disappointed if you do. Customer service is unmatched, and the quality of their products sort of matches that as well. Just one last disclaimer as well, just like I said earlier in the video, I am not affiliated with iKamper at all. I bought this with my own money, so this is my pure honest opinion. iKamper have no sort of input in this review whatsoever. I would love to work with them in the future. Other than that, thank you very much for watching again today and spending your time with me. If you think I've earned it, please drop me a subscription and a like rating. It really, really does help the channel a lot. And don't forget, the best memories are made outdoors, so let's get out there and have some fun. Cheers. Bye-bye. With the clamshell. I don't know if there's any. Yeah. Look like the rhino from Ace Ventura. So that's it for my future, Michael. This is out of sequence, so I hope you've remembered to put it in before now. But I can move you this time. Yeah. Some quite horrendous weather. Also, we've been over